Deshawn, what was your story?
Oh man, about just wanting to come into Hollywood,
Entertainment, producing, writer. I don't know.
I originally wanted to be a lawyer when I grew up.
What?
I was accepted to Alabama State, Alabama A&M, Fisk University, and then it was my senior year of high school. It was in October. I only had one class a day because I could have graduated early, but I didn't want to. Like, I wanted to walk with my class, so I did this thing called co-op, where you can take your first class and then in the afternoon you go work. Well, it was a Friday afternoon and I didn't have work. So I ended up, after my first class, I went down the street to a movie theater called the 𝘲𝘪𝘶 10 because I'm from Kalamazoo, not Detroit, y'all. I know she wanted me to say that I was from Kalamazoo.
But when y'all play back this podcast, remember what I said. I said Michigan.
Yeah, she did. She did, but she was saying Detroit.
I was just trying to put some
shout out to Kalamazoo. You know what I'm saying? I call it Calabama. But I went to the 𝘲𝘪𝘶 10 movie theater, and I had seen this film, and it was very, very, very powerful. I'm not going to go into it because, like I'm emotional. Dawn got us emotional. She started off the show.
Can you get emotional,
very,
please?
very emotional. And so I literally was like, okay, I think this is what.
You got to say the name of the film.
Right. Why was it so emotional?
Well, I mean,
Without getting.
Well.
Wait, are we about to get in trouble? Wait, hold on.
No. I saw the movie Antoine Fisher.
That's all.
And I'm not gonna say what in the film yet, because like I said, you got me very emotional, and I'm just trying not to cry. But yeah, I saw the film, and it was very, very, very impactful. In that moment, I decided that I want to act. Now, I had never acted before, right? Like, I've done like cheerleading and dance and stuff like that, but I wasn't like in theater or anything in that moment. But it was in 2002, and I said, okay, this is what I want to do. So I decided to move out to Los Angeles to be an actress. Okay.
What year is this?
I moved to Los Angeles the first time in 2004. Okay. But in 2002 is when I decided. I had made my decision. Okay. But I moved out here the first time in 2004. It wasn't until the third time, because I had to move. I went back home twice. It wasn't until the third time when I came back, and I decided to go back to school and take some classes. And then I got an internship at A. Smith that did things kind of take off. But when I was out here before, like, I did some small stuff. But yeah, like when I came back the third time, I was just like, I'm not going to give up. Like the first time I went back, it was for like family emergency. The second time I went back, I was like, I need to regroup, save some money, and come back, because it's a culture shock, right? Coming from small time Michigan to a big city.
And Kalamazoo, you ain't even say Detroit.
Yeah. The cost of living is like 3 times, what it is to live in Kalamazoo. So it was a lot. So the third time was a charm. But yeah, I went back to school at the Art Institute. I was studying digital cinema and video production. Ended up by happenstance with my hairdresser was the same hairdresser as my old boss. Shout out to Keisha. Keisha Monnier. We had the same hairdresser, and my hairdresser was like, yo, she is, she's up and coming. She's dope. Keisha was like, all right, you want an internship? And I was like, yeah. So I came and I was an intern. But when I was an intern, I didn't meet Sade when I was an intern. Like, I think she was probably around or whatever, but I didn't meet her. I didn't meet her until they hired me in. I worked directly under Keisha as a clearance coordinator.
Yes.
I didn't know what I was doing. She was just like, so I'll go back. After my internship ended, I was like, oh man, like I needed to get like a regular job. So I started working at a call center for Herbalife. It was so random. So then I literally went through the whole training. I did one day, right? After the training, I did one day on the phones. Then Keisha had texted me and said, hey, do you want to come and work?
What?
I was just like, okay. So then I had to decide, was I going to finish school or was I going to go to work? So then I went to my professor, who was a mentor. She's actually, she big time now. But yeah, one of my professors at the time, I went to her and asked, I was like, could you, basically give me some advice? I was like, I have a job offer. And she said, well, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but this is what I'll say. And because she was working for the school at the time too. So she was like, but this is what I'll say. You can either pay to learn or get paid to learn. And then she just kind of walked away. And that was it. So I obviously took the internship. And I was like, deuces, to the program. But it was a great program. But I went and I was a clearance coordinator. I had no clue what I was doing. But Keisha was like, don't worry about it. My boss at the time, she was just like, I'll train you. So that's when you came in. You were also a PA. But I was training at that time and learning how to clear music. So I cleared all the music for Unsung. And then it was another show at the time, Celebrity Crime Files. So I was clearing all with the legal team, clearing the footage and everything of that nature. So, started off that way.
Deshawn will be on it, boy. She had them notebooks out, baby. Them highlighters, them rulers. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was
efficiency.
It was a very boring job. It was just very tedious because, you just had to look over everything. And I did not like my job. But I never went to my boss and was like, I want to do this, right?
No.
Because the first thing she told me, she was just like, you know what, if you do she was like, just keep your head down and do your job. And that was it. So I didn't go to her and was like, oh, I have aspirations for this or that. I just kept my head down. And then literally 8 months later, there was an associate producer leaving and she came to me and she was just like, you want to try producing? And I was just like, yeah. And I was just like, well, like, why? Because there were other people that were technically ahead of me. She said, because you never came to me asking me for anything.
What?
And then she literally promoted me over 3 other people. And so,
come on, Favor.
So literally, I know those people were like very upset and they kind of voiced it and I heard it. But literally, she said, because you never asked me for anything. You just did your job and you kept your head down. And so when people come to me and they ask me for advice, that's the advice that I give them. I said, just do your job, keep your head down. In that sense, and people will notice.
That's okay. I can catch it.
Yeah, and if you do, if you do your job well. So, So I started as an associate producer, and then I ended up getting the opportunity to produce and finish an episode when another producer got fired. And then after that, I kind of hit a wall in a sense, and I was just like ready to go. And then I could sense like my boss saw it, so then they offered me another job to be the production supervisor for the series.
Oh,
so
that sounds like a moment. Yeah.
So then I was doing that for a minute and I was like her number 2, but then that wall was still there. And I was just, I was ready to go. And it wasn't that the job wasn't great. It was very stable. At that time, like, I was like hiring some of the producers, doing their contracts and stuff like that. But it wasn't what I came out here to do. And then Sade and I had worked on a short, so I'll let her kind of jump into that before I tell you that I just did with no plan.
I guess I'll tell the brief story there. At a certain point, I think there's a lot to what she just said about just really doing the work and showing people that you have what it takes for whatever job, that you can really like do this job, because people really are always watching and really notice. And so even though we were both there at the same time, I don't think we like talked that much because, I think at a certain point too, they had all the producers over in another room and everything. So, but eventually I think the time, I'd seen her, we said, see what's up and everything. But I remember when I first really was like, she's doing some things, is when she was helping Keisha with an event that she had that was not related to work, but it was another outside, project that she had. And I know she was helping her with it, and that's kind of when I first noticed. And then just noticing around the office, and you just really do notice some of the people and like that. They was like they're really about their business. I was like, she's serious. And like I had done a short film prior where I produced and directed it, and I had another short that I had written, and I didn't want to just it's a lot of work to produce something and direct it at the same time. And I didn't want to do it alone again, but it's hard to find, the right person to work with. So I don't know. I just thought, let me just ask. I'm like,
So what you say? Hey, girl.
She might remember it because my memory's not good sometimes. But no, I remember. I just went up to her and asked her, like, hey,
Y'all
got
had
this short
not
film?
worked on anything.
Yeah, we hadn't even been like, were you at AP yet at that point? Clearance. Okay, yeah. So we hadn't worked together yet. And I don't know, something just told me, she was the one I needed to ask. And I just was like, I feel like she's really about her business. So I just asked her, I'm like, hey, I got this short that I wrote. I've been wanting to make it, but I just don't, I've been looking for somebody to work with. I was like, would you want to work with me on it and help me produce it?
What?
And that's...
And I was sitting there because, I had my little desk by the window and I was just sitting here looking like, I was like,
Sade's
yes.
over here right now.
No, yeah, I was like,
Sade just asked me to work on a project.
I know, and I'm just sitting here looking like, because she was a senior producer at the time, and I'm just like, yeah, and I'm just sitting here, a clearance coordinator. I'm at my little desk, my binders. I'm just looking out the window, and I was just like, yeah. And at the time, like, I had done some stuff like, in film school or whatever, but I hadn't really done like producing to like that nature yet. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then I said, yeah. And then in the middle of that, I did transition to associate producer. So before the time we actually shot it, I was an associate producer at the time. But when she asked me, I was still a clearance coordinator.
Get your vitamin D right here with me and get excited